Hey guys, so I'm going to read chapter 9 of Funny Frank, written by Dick King Smith, illustrated by John Eastwood. So let's see what happens with Frank in this chapter, huh? It so happened that later that day, one of Tom Tabb's best cows was having difficulty in calving. So he sent for his brother the vet. Later, when the calf had been safely delivered, a heifer calf at that, which pleased the farmer, Ted Tabb asked about how Jemima's Frank was getting on. So there's the baby calf there. You'll be amazed, Tom said. Carrie made him some artificial feed. I'll just go and get a bowl of corn, and we'll go down to the duck pond, and you'll see. By chance, all the ducks and the ducklings were pottering about in the orchard grass, so that the pond was empty of birds, except for Frank. He had been trying to copy his friends, who were so good at putting their heads below the surface to pull up weeds or snag up wiggly things. If I'm going to be a proper duck, he told himself, I've got to be able to do that. And so he had been practicing. But somehow he didn't seem to have the knack of it. He could put his head under all right, though not very far. The wetsuit would not allow it. But he wasn't too clever at holding his breath or keeping his beak closed, so that the water got up his nostrils and down his throat. Although he was fed up, altogether he was fed up, and glad to see two men approaching, one holding a bowl of corn and calling him by name. Frank went into overdrive. He whizzed across the surface of the pond so fast that he shot out of the water and onto the bank, landing flat-footed on his big yellow webs. What do you think of that? Asked the farmer. So there's Frank there swimming on the pond. Here he is trying to dunk under, but not really doing a very good job of it. And here he is coming onto land. Amazing, said the vet. Look at those feet. How fast he goes. Carrie's a genius. But Tom, what is to become of this funny bird that is a chicken but wants to be a duck? Blessed if I know, Ted, said his brother. I hope he doesn't come to any harm. Jemima's that proud of him. We'll have to wait and see. So they waited, as the weeks and indeed months went by. They saw Frank grow and grow till he was almost the size of his father, the big red rooster, or rather as big as his father had been, for one day down at the far end of the orchard he had met an old fox that had hidden itself in a nettle patch. On Frank's head now was a big floppy scarlet comb, while out of the back of the wetsuit there hung a fine plumy tail. His wings had grown enormously too, so that now he could really scull with them to make his speedy progress on the water even speedier. All this time Frank spent his nights in the duck house and days on the duck pond, only coming ashore for food. Of his mother he practically saw nothing, for she kept well away from him, as indeed did his brothers and sisters and the rest of the flock. Sometimes this made Frank feel a little sad, for he was, after all, a chicken at heart. He had his friends, the ducks, but the older he got, the more he began to realize that though he could swim like a duck, far better in fact, he could never look like one. So there's the vet here. And here is Frank now. He's all grown up. He would see his three brothers come strutting by and think how handsome they had grown. with their fine feathers and their elegant sharp-clawed feet, in contrast to his clumsy green rubber suit and his awkward yellow rubber webs. A little later he noticed that there were only two of his brothers, and later still, only one, and at last none. Where had they gone? Frank wondered. Little did he dream that they had made 3 plump Sunday dinners for the Tabb family. For a long time, Frank had tried hard to copy the sounds of all the ducks made. His first friends, the ducklings, were grown up now, but his quack was still only Frank. But then one fine morning, something quite unexpected happened to funny Frank. I wonder what that could be, huh? Jemima had let out the hens and then had opened the duck house door, and all the ducks and the big white drake and Frank came out and made for the pond as usual. The waterfowl went straight onto the water, but Frank, instead of following, jumped clumsily on top of a big log that lay at the pond's edge. I wonder what he's going to do there, huh? So there's Frank looking at his brothers, and here's Frank walking with the ducks. He stood up on his toes as best as he could on his artificial feet, which was not very well, puffed out his chest, though this action within the wetsuit could not be seen, stretched out his by now very long neck, and to the astonishment of the ducks, gave out a loud, piercing cock-a-doodle-doo! And there he is crowing for the first time. So he's starting to act more like a chicken now than a duck, isn't he? Interesting. Wonder what's going to happen in the next chapter, but we'll find out next time, huh? Anyways, I send all my love to y'all, and remember the class rules. Love yourself, love others. I hope to see y'all very soon. Bye.